Our visitors. Written and digitally illustrated by Susan White. Found. She walked with her dog down the road that led toward the narrow path to our home. In a mile or so she would be here. She will take the dog off the leash then and be alone with us. During the last 2 years she visited only a few times a month. Though she did not visit very often, she was quiet and seemed nice, so it would be good to have her here. As my neighbors went about their daily business, I watched and waited. It was my job to announce her arrival. Not too soon, though. There was no need for excitement just yet. It was nice to see her today because the wind was cold and the snow was deep. We do not get many visitors from the city during the Colorado winter. She was bundled up with layers of clothing, a hat that covered most of her blonde hair, and mittens to keep her warm while she walked. The dog was wearing his mittens too, so the snow would not stick to the bottom of his paws. I cackled at the way she talked to the dog, as if he were like the rest of us. "Cody," she would say, "should we go this way today?" He would look up at her and exhale with a snort as if to say, "Fine with me." Maybe he was smarter than he looked. She always walked with her head down as if trying to avoid any pitfalls along the road. A bird showed himself to her once and startled her. "Wow, I have never seen one like you before," I heard her exclaim. She seemed very happy to have met him. After she stopped in to say, "Hi, everybody. What's new? How is everyone?" she would sit on a rock and, facing the sun, close her eyes and be still for a few moments. Then she would head home with Cody following behind. As she continued along the road, I noticed someone else come into view. It was a man, a stranger to me, walking some distance behind her. His long hair stuck out underneath his cap, and he looked strong, though he was only a little taller than the lady. He was catching up to her. The howling wind kept her from hearing his footsteps crunch the hard snow as he trudged along behind her. Who was he? Was he coming to see us too? Or was he following her? Both figures came closer. When she reached the path, she took the black and white dog off his leash. I chuckled to see Cody run ahead of her, enjoying his freedom. On their return trip, he would walk a few steps back, tired from the journey. He did not seem to notice the man coming up behind them either. I gave the caw, caw, caw to sound her approach, and then the cr-caw, cr-caw to say that there were two visitors. I stayed where I was to watch the man. Suddenly, Harmony plopped beside me. She was an annoying creature, always asking questions and showing off with her aerobatics, causing feathers to fly at home. "What's going on, Sonny?" she asked as she settled herself beside me. I grumbled, "Caw, caw, caw, caw," at her noisiness and distracting presence. "Shakaw, be quiet. Look, she is being followed," I crowed. "Caw, do you think he knows her?" she chirped softly. "How should I know, Harmony? My job is to make sure everyone knows who comes and goes. I just hope he's not going to do any damage while he's here, I cawed back. Don't you have something else to do? I was cautious. Not all visitors came just to visit. Harmony snuggled in close to me, as if to show me she wasn't leaving any time soon. Great, I thought. She sure is a pest. Then I noticed how good she smelled and how she was cute. Kinda, in a way, I guess. She seemed happier than most of the others I knew around here, too. Was this chick flirting with me? The thought of that possibility almost made me lose my balance. Better to pay more attention to the man who was turning off the road and to the path, now closing in on the lady and her dog. I gave the caw to sound the approach of the stranger nearing our home, and took off, with Harmony right behind me, looking for a place that had a clear view. I could hear my neighbors scattering about, preparing for our visitors. We landed in a good spot. We could see the dog loping ahead of her and the man coming up behind. "Jill!" he called out. The dog stopped cold in his tracks and turned around. "What's the matter, boy?" she asked. He responded with a wag of his tail and a bark. Then he ran past her toward the man. "Cody!" she called after him. "Cody, come!" The dog didn't stop until he reached the man, who bent over to pet him. Good boy, Cody. It is good to see you. How have you been, Cody?" the man said cheerfully. He knows the dog. Harmony peeped the obvious. "You did not see that one coming, did you, Sonny?" It was true. This was one possibility I did not anticipate. She had always walked alone when she came to see us. Sure, she came with the dog, and on the night the moon turned dark, she walked with a young boy. But this was the first time a man was. I tell you, Sonny, Harmony leaned into me and interrupted my thoughts. You never know what might happen. You never know. As I glanced at Harmony, I thought, she is cute, and sweet, too. The lady walked toward the dog and the man he befriended, still not recognizing him. Sternly she called the dog, "Cody, Cody, come here." She was not sure she could trust the man, even if the dog seemed to like him. "Jill," he called softly. "Jill, it's me." Then, remembering that voice, the one she still heard after he left, she looked at him and replied, "Michael, what are you doing here? Jill, you didn't think I would forget what happened 2 years ago, did you? But how did you? Why are you here? Did you follow me? What do you want, Michael?" Wow, she seems very surprised, nervous, and a little angry, too, I thought. Harmony and I listened intently and waited for what he would say next. The man stood up from the dog, walked toward her, and put his arms around her. "Jill, I have missed you so much. I didn't want to leave you, Jill, but there was something I had to do," he said tenderly. "But you did leave me, Michael. You left me 2 years ago, and you didn't tell me why. How could you leave without telling me why?" she pleaded. "Jill, it was my mother. I had to go back home because my father was dying. It was my duty to be there for my mother," he said. "Michael, I would have understood that. I could have been there for you. I am sorry about your father. I am sure your mother was grateful you were there. Still, I do not understand why you did not tell me. You said you loved me and we would have a life together," she said as tears came to her eyes. "I still love you, Jill. I came back to see if you still love me and if you will forgive me for leaving like I did." No, do not forgive him, I thought, and turned an eye to Harmony. "Forgive him, Jill," she cooed. Jill, there was a reason I could not tell you why I had to leave, Michael said. This ought to be good, I cackled to Harmony. She rolled her eyes at me. Okay, I'll listen. Jill, I did not tell you before because I wanted you to love me for who I am and not what I am. You are a jerk, that's what you are, I cawed out. Michael went on. My father was king of Melander until he died. Now I am the king, and I want you to come to Melander with me and be my queen. I need you beside me, Jill. I do not want to go back without my love. Michael kissed her and held her tightly in his arms. Oh, Michael, I never stopped loving you. Of course I will go back with you and be your queen, she sighed. A caw! Harmony clucked and gave me a peck on the cheek. I looked over her and suddenly felt weak at the ankles. What was going on? I did not have this feeling before. Harmony fluttered her eyelashes at me and fluffed herself. Harmony, do you think, is it possible we could feel the way they do? Love, I mean. Can we feel love? Sonny, you never know, she cooed and snuggled closer. I put a wing around her and drew her in. Harmony, would you be my queen? Oh, Sonny, of course I will be your queen. Michael and Jill walked side by side on the road back to the city. Though they did not stay long, their visit to our home was enjoyable, and they seemed happy. Cody was happy too, as he ran ahead of them, leaping like our next-door neighbors, the deers. Michael, said Jill, does Melander have mountains and forests like Colorado does? I hope so. I never noticed so many creatures here before. Look at the fox there, and the rabbit over there, and there is Abert the squirrel. Look, on the branch in the tree over there, two crows snuggled up beside each other. They must be lovebirds. Yes, Michael replied and looked lovingly into her eyes. You never know. The end. Photography by Luca Mezzalera and Susan White.